Stand still. No intro music. Just you, looking slightly off camera, then back. You know that moment. You haven't cried yet. You haven't said a word. You're just sitting there, running through something in your head. And from across the room, your dog has stopped moving. The clicking of nails on hardwood that was there a second ago. Gone. They're just watching you. Not barking, not wagging, not asking for anything. Just that steady, unblinking stare, head slightly tilted, a low exhale through the nose. And you get this eerie feeling that they already know, before you've done anything, before you even admitted it to yourself. Most owners have felt this, at least once, and most of them never get a straight answer about what it actually means. Here's the question nobody answers honestly. Is that emotional intelligence, or is it something older, darker, and far more calculated than we want to admit? There's one specific behavior dogs perform that no other domesticated animal does. We'll come back to it. Slow step toward camera. The dominant story, the one the internet runs on, the one that built an entire therapy animal industry, is that dogs just get us. That they're uniquely empathetic, practically psychic. Owners say it casually. He just knows. And it feels true. It really does. But here's the thing that doesn't get said enough. Knowing and feeling are two completely different neurological events. And before we call something emotional intelligence, we should probably figure out what's actually happening underneath that stare. Because what we're calling intelligence might be something else wearing a very convincing mask. Blondes, lean back slightly. Let's draw a hard line right here. Detecting an emotional state and understanding it. Those are not the same thing. Dogs are extraordinary at the first part. Absolutely extraordinary. They can pick up cortisol changes in human sweat, read micro-expressions your own family misses, track postural shifts you didn't even know you made. Dr. Brian Hare at Duke University's Canine Cognition Center spent years on this, and what his work shows is that dogs have evolved a specific social cognitive toolkit for reading humans. It's real, it's measurable, but it's not empathy in any philosophical sense. It's closer to, so it's pure instinct then. Actually, wait, no, that's not right either. Recent studies complicate that significantly. Because what's happening in a dog's brain when they read you isn't just reflexive. There's something in between instinct and understanding that we don't have clean language for yet. Step to the side, neutral expression. Here's the timeline that matters. Dogs diverged from wolves somewhere between 15 and 40,000 years ago. And during that entire coevolution with humans, the animals that survived, the ones that got fed, that stayed close to camps, that weren't driven away, were disproportionately the ones that could read human emotional states. Not wolf pack dynamics, human faces, human body language, human mood shifts. That was the selection pressure. A 2015 study published in Science showed that dogs follow human gaze in ways that wolves raised by humans simply don't replicate. It's not training, it's not individual personality, it's in the genome. The emotional attunement was literally bred in over thousands of years of living alongside us. Look directly into camera. Deadpan. But here's the data point that makes people uncomfortable. Dogs show dramatically less of this so-called empathetic behavior toward strangers than they do toward their owners. If it were true emotional intelligence, the transferable kind, the kind humans have, that gap shouldn't be nearly that wide. And there's a specific micro-behavior here that I want you to think about. When a dog approaches a crying owner, they'll often sniff them intensely, make brief contact, and then leave the room. That's not what a grieving friend does. That's stress offloading behavior. Your dog isn't sitting with your pain. They're managing their own discomfort about yours. The behavior looks like comfort. The mechanism is self-regulation. Break the fourth wall. Almost amused. I have to be careful not to oversimplify this for a thumbnail, so let me be precise. Dogs aren't the only emotionally complex animals. Elephants demonstrate grief rituals that last days. Chimpanzees show theory of mind, the ability to model that another individual holds a belief different from their own. Crows recognize human faces, hold grudges, and actively teach their offspring who to distrust. Dolphins pass mirror self-recognition tests. Dogs consistently do not. So where do they actually rank? The honest answer is, it completely depends on which dimension of emotional intelligence you're measuring. On raw human social reading ability, nothing comes close. On abstract reasoning about mental states, they're not even in the top conversation. Pick up your phone, glance at it like you're pulling up notes, then set it down. One of the most cited examples of dog emotional intelligence is the dog waiting at the door before you arrive home. Owners take this as psychic connection, as proof that the dog felt them coming. The actual mechanism is circadian entrainment and scent dissipation. Your scent concentration in the house follows a predictable daily pattern. It peaks overnight, fades through the day. Your dog tracks the fading curve. They're not sensing your mood from 3 miles away. They're reading a chemical timeline that says the concentration is low enough now. They're almost back. Border Collies and Belgian Malinois do this with genuinely unsettling precision, not because they love you more than a Labrador does, but because their brains are wired for obsessive behavioral pattern mapping. The behavioral studies say to simply appreciate it as bonding behavior, but good luck holding that romantic interpretation the third time your Malinois has destroyed a door frame waiting for you. Slow exhale. Measured. Here's the reframe that changes everything. Research from the University of Vienna suggests dogs may not possess emotional intelligence so much as they reflect yours back at you. It's called emotional contagion. Your dog synchronizes their emotional state to yours through continuous environmental reading. You're anxious, they become anxious. You settle, they settle. It looks like understanding. It functions like a mirror. And the question that follows is genuinely uncomfortable. Does the distinction matter? And to whom does it matter more? You or your dog? Lean in slightly. Voice drops a register. This is the part nobody wants to hear. Owners who believe their dogs are emotionally intelligent behave differently around them. They talk to them more. They expose them to more emotional cues. They unconsciously reward emotional responses. A glance, a lean, a pause before leaving the room. And over time, that produces a dog that appears more emotionally attuned. It's a feedback loop. You didn't discover your dog's emotional intelligence. You may have partially built it, which means your assessment of your dog's inner life is not objective data. It's a co-authored story. Hold up one finger, controlled, not dramatic. 2 myths need to go. First, dogs are more empathetic than humans. True empathy requires theory of mind, the cognitive capacity to model another being's mental state as distinct and separate from your own. Current behavioral science does not confirm dogs have this reliably. What they have is reactive emotional sensitivity, which is extraordinary and genuinely rare across the animal kingdom, but it's categorically different. I know this feels like splitting hairs. But that difference is exactly why your dog comforts you sometimes and stares blankly at you during a panic attack other times. The sensitivity is real. The comprehension has a ceiling. Back to neutral. No performance here. Second layer, attachment. Dogs form bonds that mirror human infant-caregiver attachment. This was confirmed using the strange situation protocol adapted for dogs by Topol and colleagues. Your dog uses you as a secure base. The same psychological architecture human children use with a primary caregiver. They explore from you. They return to you when threatened. They check your face for permission and reassurance. This isn't just loyalty or conditioning. It's a deep attachment system, which means what looks like emotional intelligence may actually be attachment behavior. And those two things produce almost identical outputs with completely different underlying engines. Stand still, quiet. And then there's the biology that's genuinely hard to argue with. A 2015 study by Nagasawa and colleagues published in Science showed that mutual gaze between dogs and their owners triggers an oxytocin release loop in both species simultaneously. The same hormonal mechanism that bonds human mothers to their infants. No other animal does this with humans. Not wolves. Not the primates we share 98% of our DNA with. Just dogs. That's not a trick. That's not conditioning. That is a cross-species biological bond that evolution kept around for tens of thousands of years because it was useful to both sides. The argument isn't that dogs are the most emotionally intelligent animal. It's that they may occupy a category no other animal occupies. Hold up a pen and small notepad or your phone notes app. Stop relying on feelings to measure this. Here's a real 3-day observational test you can run right now. Track 3 specific behaviors. 1. When something startles your dog, where do they look first, at the threat or at your face? Face checking is a documented high-level social cognition marker. 2. Does your dog respond differently to genuine crying versus fake crying? This was tested and documented by Custance and Meyer in 2012. The difference in response is measurable. 3. Does your dog offer physical contact when you're distressed without being called over? Deadpan look into camera. If all 3 happen consistently, you have a strong case. If none of them happen, you have a very loyal, very food-motivated animal. Both are fine. Remember the behavior I mentioned at the beginning, the one thing dogs do that no other domesticated animal does consistently? It's called referential gaze. When a dog encounters something confusing or threatening, something they can't solve on their own, they look at a human face for information, not away from it, not at the threat, at you. Wolves don't do this. Cats don't do this reliably. Horses do it minimally. Only dogs do it instinctively, cross-culturally, across every breed. And that act, turning to a human face during uncertainty, implies something. It implies that your dog understands on some level that you hold information they need. That's not just detection. That's a social cognitive act. Maybe that's not emotional intelligence as philosophers define it, but it's what evolution decided was worth keeping across 15,000 years of shared history. So the answer to the title question? Wrong question. The right one isn't whether dogs are the most emotionally intelligent animal. It's whether they're the most emotionally invested in us, and whether any other animal on the planet even comes close to that. Here's your assignment for the next 3 days. Every time something startles your dog, a sound, a movement, anything unexpected, watch their face. Where do they look first? The threat or you? Drop what you find in the comments and tell me your most uncanny, my dog just knew moment, the one you've never been able to explain. If this video shifted your answer to that title question even slightly, the like button is right there. Next video, what your dog actually understands when you talk to them. That one gets stranger than this one.